1861. A military camp near Washington, the middle of the night. A man sits inside a tent writing a letter. Around him, thousands of soldiers are asleep. The fire has not gone out. In the coming days, a battle will begin. Everyone can feel it. But this man is not thinking about the battle. He is thinking about home. He picks up his pen. He looks at the paper. For a long time, he just looks at it. Then he writes, "My very dear Sarah." This letter will become one of the most remembered letters in American history. But Sarah will not receive it in time, because this letter will not reach her while Sullivan is still alive. Why? The answer to that question will stay with you. Sullivan Ballou's name was not remembered often in history books. He was not a great general. He was not a famous politician. No grand monument had been built for him. He was just a man, a lawyer from Rhode Island, 32 years old. He had 2 young sons, Edgar and Willie, and a wife named Sarah. He spent his days among records and books. He spoke with clients. In the evenings, he came home. A normal life. But in April of 1861, everything changed. America was breaking apart. Between North and South, a deep divide was growing. Slavery, economic interests, power. 2 different worlds inside one country. The first shots were fired. The Civil War began. That day, Sullivan Ballou closed his office. He went home. He looked at Sarah and said nothing. The next day, he volunteered. Sarah could not understand it. Why? Why did you go? Why did you leave us? No one had forced him. He had reasons to stay. He was a lawyer. He had a family. But he went. Sullivan knew the answer to that question, but at the time, maybe he could not fully explain it to Sarah. Maybe he could not find the words. Maybe there was no time. Maybe the answer was too heavy to say out loud. Months later, inside a tent, he placed that answer on paper, but that paper did not reach Sarah. Not yet. The summer of 1861, the fields of Virginia. Sullivan was now a major, 2nd Rhode Island Infantry, thousands of soldiers, each one far from home. Each one had a Sarah, an Edgar, a Willie. It was still the early months of the war. Both sides still believed it would end quickly. They were wrong. But no one knew that yet. July 14th, 1861. 1 week before the battle. Sullivan sat inside his tent. It was the middle of the night. Around him, everyone was asleep. He picked up his pen. He began to write. This letter was long, very long, because he wanted to say everything once, completely, but there was something strange. He finished the letter. He folded it. He kept it with him. It did not reach Sarah then, but why? That question has stayed with the story. Maybe there were military concerns. Maybe letters could be read. Maybe he did not want to frighten Sarah. Maybe he did not know these would become his final words. But there is another possibility. Maybe Sullivan did not write this letter only to send it. Maybe he simply needed to say it. To the paper, in the middle of the night. To someone. Because some words become heavy when they stay inside you. Sullivan said them. On paper, he kept the letter and went to battle. July 21st, 1861. The first battle of Bull Run, Virginia. A hot summer day. 2 armies faced each other. In the first hours of the battle, the Union Army, Sullivan's army, moved forward. For a moment, it looked as if this might end quickly, but the Confederates came back. Strong, determined, unshaken. The Union line collapsed. The retreat began. Sullivan did not run. He tried to hold his position. He tried to keep his men together. In those moments, a bullet found him. He was mortally wounded. He was carried from the battlefield. A few days later, he died. 32 years old. Edgar grew up without his father. Willie grew up without his father. Sarah waited, and waited, and waited. Then the news came. After some time, Sullivan's belongings were sent to Sarah. Clothing, A few personal items, small notes, and among them, one folded piece of paper. Sarah opened it. She read, "We do not know that moment. We were not there. But we know one thing. That letter stayed with Sarah for the rest of her life." In the letter, Sullivan wrote that he loved his country, that love was strong, but his love for his children was strong too. Both lived inside him. He could not abandon either one. He wrote that when he thought of Sarah, he wanted to fight, because the world Sarah lived in was worth protecting. He wrote that if he did not return, his love would still remain near her, in the wind, in the laughter of their children, in the silence of the night. From Sullivan's words, one quiet feeling rises. Love does not end with the body. That night, he did not write this as a slogan. He wrote it as something he was leaving behind for Sarah. Think about it. In a few days, you may go into battle. You know it. You sit down with a piece of paper. What would you write? Sullivan wrote, and he hid nothing. In 1990, Ken Burns released the documentary The Civil War. In that film, this letter was read aloud, a simple voice. No grand decoration, no performance, just a voice. Quiet, deep, slow. That reading stayed in the memory of millions of viewers, because people were not only hearing a soldier's letter, they were hearing how war touches a family. Sullivan Ballou felt familiar. Everyone recognized him in some way. He was someone's father, someone's husband, someone's son. He was just a man who had to go, a man who wanted to stay, but went anyway. History sometimes speaks in large numbers. 600,000 dead, 4 years, dozens of battles, dozens of generals, dozens of strategies. But history is also a letter written inside a tent in the middle of the night. A letter that arrived too late, but was never forgotten. Few people know the name Sullivan Ballou, but that letter still lives because he was not trying to write something great. He was simply being honest. Maybe history teaches us this. The greatest words are not always spoken from podiums. Sometimes they come from the heart of one lonely person in the middle of the night. Sullivan lost his battle, but not his letter. Some people do not leave a great mark on history. They leave a letter, and sometimes a letter lives longer than the person who wrote it.